Nintendo? You're doing it again. But what do I mean by it, and how are they doing it again? So Nintendo just unveiled their new console, the Nintendo Switch 2, as a direct successor to their previous console, the Nintendo Switch, which has been one of the best-selling consoles ever released. Now, I have a few thoughts about this that I know Nintendo fans won't be happy about, but it needs to be said. This announcement reminds me of the Wii U reveal. Rewind to the mid to late 2000s where Nintendo was riding the high of the Nintendo Wii, and to say that the Wii took the world by storm would be the understatement of the millennium. Everybody and their grandma had a Wii, and that is by no means an exaggeration. The Wii was a centerpiece for many a living room, daycare, dentist's office, and even retirement homes. You couldn't escape it. It was madness. This period of success, however, led to Nintendo getting rather comfortable, or should I say complacent, resting on their laurels, confident that they could just keep printing money forever. In their confidence, they decided to name the direct successor to the Wii U, thinking the brand would capture the same audience once again, and we all know what happened from there. Or at least, some of us do. No one bought the thing. Fast forward to 2025 and Nintendo was once again riding the high of a successful console, and they've decided once again to name its successor directly after the previous console. Enter the Nintendo Switch 2. But along with a similar naming scheme, there are other parallels that I've noticed which are leading me to believe that the Switch 2 may be headed down a similar path to the Wii U. The game they showed off during the reveal looks like a game that was already on the previous console with seemingly few visual upgrades or changes. And if you're about to type a comment saying that I missed how the characters now have squash and stretch and that Donkey Kong has been redesigned and that tires are now a red shell brand, then you're missing the point. Those are things that only the most keen-eyed of fans would even notice. When a new console is revealed, the general public is often looking for one of two things: a fun and interesting way to play games, often taking the form of a new controller, peripheral, or gameplay mechanics, and/or jaw-dropping art direction and appealing new visual styles, which may but not always include realism. I'm not a graphics snob whatsoever, but a sequel like this needs to have a stronger visual identity, and this is not that. Even if this is an early build of the game, developers are still able to cherry pick certain parts of the game in order to create a vertical slice, which is meant to show the game in the best light possible. I understand that this was just a teaser and they didn't want to show their hand too soon, but what little we have seen is still unimpressive after an 11-year gap between releases from a visual, technical, and gameplay standpoint. Compare this to the Mario Odyssey teaser that was in the Switch reveal. It depicted Mario doing a triple jump through a Mexico-inspired city. In just 7 seconds, they were able to convey a visually distinct and technically impressive, at least by Mario standards, game that displayed the long-awaited return of the triple jump to a 3D Mario game. Even though both of these teasers are only a few seconds long, the Mario Odyssey teaser used that time far more effectively than showing what appears to be a few seconds of gameplay that resembles a Switch port of a 2014 Wii U game. Further parallels include a push for more physical merchandise like the alarm clock, a few more ports from previous consoles. They also released a music app. And to nobody's surprise, here come the DMCA takedowns. All that's left now is the partnership program, and the mid-2010s Nintendo playbook will be complete. Granted, they've made much more money from the Switch than previous console generations, and with the prevalence of social media, I'd argue that they're even more relevant now than they were during the Wii era. But such relevance might spell bad news because Nintendo has become just as famous as it has infamous in this past generation. It may have been easy for Nintendo to ignore all the bad press after their console had pushed millions of units, but you obviously can't do that twice in a row. From the beginning of the Switch's life, Nintendo has been gleefully plugging their ears and even outright denying accusations of faulty hardware, and that's just the beginning of their grievances. The previously mentioned DMCA takedowns, fan game takedowns, a classic game library that releases games with the speed of erosion, bland menus, an outright embarrassing eShop, unacceptable online services that were given a price after the point of sale, by the way. The most offensive thing to me, however, has been releasing half-baked or feature-starved games like ARMS, Mario Tennis Aces, Super Mario Party, Mario Golf, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Nintendo Switch Sports, Mario Strikers Battle League, and just all of Pokemon on Switch. Except maybe Legends Arceus, which should have been a launch title, with Scarlet and Violet following up on that game's formula a few years later. This approach may have also remedied the game's weakness to flying types, but that's a discussion for another day. For me, Splatoon 3 was the last straw. Those stages were so boring that I'd rather stare at the wall and watch paint dry, which is something you can rarely do in Splatoon 3 because barely any of the walls are paintable. All jokes aside though, this has made me way more cautious about my Nintendo purchases than I've ever been in my entire life. To circle back to the complacency I'd mentioned earlier, one of the biggest issues the Wii faced was the mountains of shovelware that was being released for the system. Rushed, low-quality titles that were only made to capitalize on unknowing customers to make a quick buck. We see this happening again today with the Switch's eShop, which is not only slow to navigate due to long loading times and a cluttered appearance exacerbated by the boring interface with no music or theming, but it's also packed to the brim with low-quality titles that can only be classified as games through the most generous of technicalities, with far too many of them only being there to swindle you out of your money. With all this in mind, unless the hardware and online experience is top notch for the next console, I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that Nintendo may experience another Wii U era. Do I want this? No. Well, kinda. Nintendo needs to take a step back and truly address the issues with the Nintendo Switch in order for the Switch 2 to be successful. But here's the problem. Nintendo is a big business. Derogatory. Given their current success, they have no incentive to do what I just suggested from a big business perspective. Big business perspective meaning short-sighted and money obsessed. Why change your strategy when you've been getting along just fine plugging your ears and looking the other way? Why change your strategy when it's made you billions of dollars? And now that you've got your billions, the obvious next step is to double down and make a trillion. But mind you, this strategy has been horrible for customers who will likely never buy another Nintendo console again, or at the very least, hesitate before purchasing the next one. Unfortunately, the only way to get a big business to change course is if their hand is forced, either through legal action or financial loss. Oh, hello Wii U! Despite Nintendo's financial losses during the Wii U era, dare say because of their financial losses, it was a great time for consumers. You know how Nintendo is infamous for never discounting their games below $60? At one point during the Wii U era, if you bought Mario Kart 8, you could register your copy on Club Nintendo. Once registered, you were able to claim another game for free. So what free game are we talking about? Pause the video and type your prediction for what free game you'd get for registering Mario Kart 8. All done? If you guessed Nintendo Land, then you'd be correct. I mean, it was pretty obvious, that game should have just been included with every console. But that wasn't the only game you could have gotten, because you actually had a choice of one of 10 games. Including Nintendo Land, you could choose from New Super Mario Bros. U, Game & Wario, Pikmin 3, Wind Waker HD, Sonic Lost World, Mario and Sonic at the Winter 2014 Olympic Games, Wii Party U, The Wonderful 101, and Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. Americans only got these 4. But despite that, no matter which game you chose, every single one of these titles were amazing at best and a great time at worst, with maybe 2 exceptions. Coupled with the fact that Mario Kart 8 shipped with some Wii U consoles, you effectively got 2 games included with your purchase. Modern day Nintendo would never do this. My ideal outcome would be Wii U era generosity mixed with Nintendo Switch level sales. Let me explain. First off, it's a known fact that Reggie had to practically fight Miyamoto and Iwata to include Wii Sports as a pack-in title for the Wii, which is evident by the fact that only the deluxe black version of the Wii U came with Nintendo Land and the Switch didn't come with any game at all. I know it's not sustainable for them to just constantly give games away like the early adopter award, but Nintendo definitely needs to win back some of the goodwill lost during this generation, because there's been a nasty storm brewing over the past decade that could have devastating effects on the company. Free-to-play games are far more mainstream now than they were when the Switch released. Because these games aren't bound by console generations, games like Fortnite, Rocket League, and Fall Guys are all technically going to be Nintendo Switch 2 launch titles if Nintendo puts them on the eShop on day one. If Nintendo's launch lineup is lacking any key titles like a new 3D Mario game or Mario Kart entry, then you'd better believe that there's some companies out there ready to prey on new Switch 2 owners that are desperate for a new title. Say for instance, a company releases a free-to-play Mario Kart knockoff on the same day that the Switch 2 launches that ends up becoming extremely successful, not only because Mario Kart Switch 2's release is still several months away, but also on its own merits. Not only that, but the knockoff includes a shameless predatory monetization systems and progression loops that keeps its players hooked and coming back to it months or even years after Mario Kart Switch 2 is released, with some players even preferring it over Mario Kart. Sure, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is one of the best-selling Switch games, but a lot of those sales can be attributed to the fact that it was available only a month after the Switch launched, and competition was pretty sparse. Remember, we haven't had a brand new Mario Kart entry since the term live service was even coined, and the circumstances around the game are similar to that of Concord and Foam Stars. And while I don't see any Mario Kart game performing anywhere close to as poorly as those, it could still underperform because of its free-to-play alternatives. I'm fully aware that this is the absolute worst case scenario, and I know most of you are scoffing at the idea right now, but so were Nintendo's executives in 2012. Am I suggesting that Mario Kart go free to play? No, please no, never again. However, I am suggesting that Nintendo really needs to bring their A game to hype up this new Mario Kart entry and really show off how the game is a worthy successor to 8 Deluxe, as this game will not only be competing against other games trying to capitalize on the Switch 2's launch, but because the console is backwards compatible, it'll also be directly competing with 8 Deluxe. Speaking of which, I really want to know how Nintendo plans to handle 8 Deluxe's servers. Mario Kart has been one of their go-to system sellers since 64. Release the new entry too soon, and you'll have 2 games from the same series directly competing against each other. Shut down the 8 Deluxe servers, and you're ripping off Booster Course Pass players even more, as if the graphical downgrades weren't already enough. The real problem is that the Booster Course Pass was released way too late into the game's life. It should have started in like 2019 and ended in early 2022. And for a game that has a new and improved battle mode as a selling point on the back of the box, you'd think that some new battle courses would be added to the game as DLC instead of just race courses. That would even make the server shutdown sting less. But I hope that I've been able to make my point clear that this entire situation is an absolute logistical and PR nightmare, and I don't envy their position whatsoever. But I also don't have any sympathy for them either, because we should have just gotten a proper Mario Kart game on Switch in the first place. Not only that, but they didn't offer any sort of compensation for base Mario Kart 8 owners, especially considering how that game had DLC of its own. Paid DLC, mind you, meaning the most definitive Mario Kart 8 experience costs, let me see here, base 8 plus 8 DLC plus 8 DX plus the Booster Course Pass, $157. Are you serious? What do you think I am, a Pokemon fan? And I'm never gonna buy the Booster Course Pass because it should have been free for base 8 DLC owners. We've already bought the full game twice. And I can't wait for all the comments telling me I'm poor for not buying the DLC, but understand that when we're both mashed into the same lobby on Sydney Sprint, the number of lollies I'm versing is insane. Now even though I think a free-to-play Mario Kart game is a bad Now even though I know a free-to-play Mario Kart game is a terrible idea, I have a solution for a Switch 2 launch title that I think would be quite reasonable. Every Switch 2 should come with a free-to-play demo preloaded onto the console. This game would be akin to something out of the Wii series like Wii Sports or Wii Play, but it has a full resort version available for $30. And if they release a deluxe Switch 2 with an alternate color scheme, please Nintendo, this is hideous, it should come with a full version of that game as a cartridge. What? I love physical media. The demo version would mainly act as a technical showcase, but it would also give players something to do with their new, supposedly high-tech controllers aside from immediately downloading Fortnite. I remember when the 3DS first released, and in order to even see the 3D feature in action, I had to go to the eShop and watch trailers for games. Street Pass was virtually non-functional because nobody had a 3DS yet. Then, both the AR games and Face Raiders required you to use a 3DS camera to play. On a handheld system, meant to be played on the go. Perfect for those occasions where you want to look either insane or creepy in public. Take your pick. Or don't actually. Wait, where was I? Oh yeah, a pack-in title like this would help Nintendo maintain their current fans, bring back hesitant customers, as well as create new ones. But with their current path, I see them refusing to acknowledge their problems and winding up back in the same place they were in 2013. But if that's what it takes for them to treat their customers better, then I'm sad to say that's the outcome I'd prefer. Hopefully this video ages both well and poorly, with the positives aging well and the negatives aging poorly. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that we're in for another Wii U era? Do you think that the Mario Kart teaser should have been more visually distinct? What do you think Nintendo should do to make this next console successful? Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe to see the next post as soon as it goes live. Also, copy your comment and paste it under Nintendo's comment section, and be sure to upvote other people's comments so that we can have themed menus and finished games this time. Alright, take care. Did you really think I was just gonna sit here and dunk on a game's graphics without offering constructive feedback? You must be new here, and if so, welcome. And thanks for sticking around, I appreciate it. I wanted to touch on my point about offering a fresh visual style. If you're wondering how Nintendo could possibly top Mario Kart 8, then it's my pleasure to present to you Mario Kart Arcade GP DX. This game is absolutely gorgeous, and this is the drastic change in art direction that players are looking for in a new Mario Kart game. It's a perfect illustration of how realism and fidelity aren't the only way to show off a new console's graphics. This game's frantic pace and surreal visuals are a stark contrast to Mario Kart 8's more controlled and grounded direction. Putting these games side by side reminded me a lot of looking at Sonic 1 when compared to Sonic Mania. Both games have a comparable graphical fidelity, But these two are just so ridiculously saturated, and the characters and backgrounds are just so much more dynamic that your eyes are glued to the screen. But even though I like how insane this game looks, I understand why they might tone it down for a home console release, because this is definitely overstimulating for some people. Here's another approach I thought of. Since this game is releasing after Wonder, why not put a pair of eyes on some plants or the sun as a subtle nod to that game, but also as a nod to Double Dash, the Mario Kart entry with the strongest visual identity by far. You can take a single glance at any track from Double Dash and you know it's Double Dash. And while you're at it, how about some Mario Odyssey representation? Steam Station, Volbono Valley, Ruined Raceway? Come on, this stuff writes itself. The GameCube era was full of Sunshine references, and both the Wii and Wii U era were also full of Galaxy references. Oh, who am I kidding? Nintendo hates Odyssey. They've barely referenced that game since 2021. All New Dog City got was a golf course and a single Captain Toad level. I almost forgot about the Smash Ultimate stage. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe added 48 DLC courses, and Mario Odyssey gets the Waluigi treatment, where a plant gives representation but it doesn't. Cappy hasn't physically appeared in a game since 2018. I don't count Pauline as Odyssey representation because 1, she obviously debuted in Donkey Kong, but 2, her modern appearance actually dates all the way back to 2006 with March of the Minis, and she appeared in that series fairly regularly until Odyssey released. Meanwhile, Aluma appeared in the Mario movie despite the Cap Kingdom residents, whose names I won't even try to pronounce, could have easily taken their place. Nintendo hates this game. But those are just two approaches Nintendo could take to make Mario Kart Switch 2 stand out more. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this little addendum. Comment below what you'd do to change up the visuals. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and take care.